Prospect, NAGA. Let me ask you a question. How much understanding you got over your own character? Like, you can be watching something on TV, or you could be dealing with politics or some bullshit or whatever. And whatever the topic may be about, somebody mentioned the topic, they say it in a form of passion, and ultimately you gravitate to it. You never stop and ask yourself why you gravitating to it. But then people say they do personal work on themselves and their character, and they know how to look deep into one's understanding. Well, most of the time when you respond to things and you get emotional about topics, it's because it's a reflection outside of yourself. So outside of you, you are going to respond in retrospect to how that perspective of a situation makes you feel about yourself. This is how people come together in groups. And then you can tell by the weakest person by how more adamantly they are about the topic. See, this is why they tell you that the things we deal with is an illusion. Because personally, it's not even about the situations that you get yourself involved in and then choose to use emotional contact to explain it, because outside of yourself, it's a personal reflection of how you feel. That doesn't speak on the inside of you. That's where your strength is at. That's like knowing that everything outside of you is something that you are basically adjusting to. It's all a choice. And when you understand that as a principle, you start to understand yourself more, because then you can see why in certain circumstances you choose to feel certain ways. So then you can go inside and work on those particular things. Then it'll allow you to be different in those circumstances that you feel you might be slighting by your current reaction to certain things. So it's not like you need someone to point it out. You just have to point it out yourself and be mindful. That's why this term, you hear a lot of people saying it now, be mindful, be mindful. But what are you being mindful for? Are you being mindful for the fact that you're noticing that your emotional contact is privy to anybody's subsequent situation that may have a valid pretense that is relative to an emotional pattern you may be personally dealing with? That's kind of deep. So that tells you two things about the individual. One, that they are on a misery match composition, to where their subconscious is seeking out miserable condensation for you to value it. So this is why you feel relative to certain situations. And two, that you can't think higher than the current situation outside of your perception. That says you don't go inside yourself. This is not pointing at anybody in particular. This is just what happens in this circumstance. So what kind of read are you doing? Are you looking deep into you? Or is it because of the outside situations is what sparks your knowledge just to even read? Because there's a pretense to everything. And before you go out into the world, trying to learn something, it's best to understand your car first and master that car, so then you can be more absorbent when you go into the world. Because when you're not as absorbent, everything hits you and it's gonna do damage. It's like if you're not malleable, when things hit you, it's gonna break a piece off. And you're gonna feel that emotional contact to that situation. So I ain't gonna hold you, yo. I just wanted to come drop that little jewel real quick and get your mind thinking about some things on reading personal characteristics within yourself. You don't got to go far to learn a lot. You just got to open up to your actions and be mindful about what you are doing and what you are saying. Don't worry about what the world has to offer. When you work on yourself correctly, you'll be able to absorb all the world has to offer for you. And then some. Experience will happen on its full potential. But until you learn that indifference, you always have a couple little rough spots. But that's okay. We will be learning, we growing, right? You already know the vibes. NAGA.